have for a long, long, long time intended to kind of forgive and forget. You cannot do that. I think it's very important that you express sorrow and you express, what shall I say, sorrow, and perhaps even ask for a bit of forgiveness. And indeed, right across the world, in terms of retribution, in terms of reparations, in terms of all this, there is a question of acknowledgement. And one of the things that the British government, and indeed the British system, has persistently refused to do is to acknowledge its role. And I think when you say your mother, my mother, feels equally very strong. And I think a lot of, as perhaps one of the best known cultural exponent in this country, Dr. Nyairo, said, we really must be very careful that we must acknowledge that she did a good job, but she left a lot of things that ought to have been put on the table to acknowledge at least. So perhaps your mother and my mother and a lot of other people's mothers here would be able to feel that at least they do acknowledge that there were excesses, regardless. And that we would be able to, as somebody said, forgive and forget, but you cannot ignore. And I think the British government has persistently, right across, despite the Commonwealth, despite all this, tried very much to kind of, shall I say, sweep it under the carpet, so to speak. And I think it's about time then, with the new monarch coming in, perhaps, and perhaps Jeff, and perhaps Victoria, that the British government will be able to say, we did cross the line, so to speak, and we are sorry for that. And perhaps then you and my mother and our grandparents and a lot of other people right across the world will be able to say, perhaps they did acknowledge there were excesses.